so that we can finish and do some of your chat questions at the end. And I'm going to go share my screen. And make sure, Matt, that you can see it. And put my slideshow on, and you guys should be good to go. Matt, does that look good?
Looks good.
Okay, excellent. Always like the one, Karen, over on the far right. That's my island, you know, because one of my favorite things to do when we're doing a motivational class is to talk about not partying on the island of Suck. And if you look really, really close on that island, you could probably find a Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay,
I'll take it.
You're gonna click on the admit button so I don't have to manage that, and then we'll get going, and then I'll just come in and check with the chat towards the end of the class and go through some questions, okay? And let's see, today we'll have a couple of handouts. They've been sent to Maureen Culbertson. So if you guys start chatting for handouts, which I'll mention a couple as we go, I think there's 2 or 3 today. Then you can go to the link and download those. We'll just pretend I was handing them out. Today we're gonna talk about saving yourself while you save others. Yesterday we went through change and catalyst to your world and what interrupts it and how you can get some coping skills. And of course, I'm a big fan of writing. 82% chance you'll do something about it if you get pen to ink and paper. So everybody grab pen and paper, and we'll do something about handouts as we go forward, and we'll just pretend I'm handing them out. I show you a picture of them so you can take a good look at what we're writing about and get a feel for it. So if you guys haven't seen me before or didn't pop in yesterday, I'm a big fan of what we all do in the first responder world and being the first responder. And to be honest with you, I didn't want anything to do with 911 when I was growing up. I'm the daughter of a fire chief. And I can remember like it was yesterday when he came out of a fire with a little 4-year-old. We were sitting in the back of the car and his beeper went off in church, and that was always very exciting for us. And that day he came out of the fire with a 4-year-old that had started the fire. And I don't think he was the same for quite some time. And that caused a lot of family issues and strife. My mom was the emergency room nurse, and people would say when I was walking home from school, "You live with the screamer." I'd be like, "Yes, I do." And my brother, my younger brother, bless his heart, grew up to be a deputy sheriff and kind of a jerk. So we had a lot of rework to do on relationships. And then we had my older brother, a paramedic in Seattle, still 35 years into it, working through COVID and things that are going on in Seattle, and super close family, and also volatile, you know, and so I didn't want anything to do with 911. And I got into project management and construction, and my job back in the day was to help buildings like hospitals and prisons be protected from lightning, so that all the important mission critical work would continue. Well, that was fun. And then I got my own project, and I worked my way up into being in charge of something, and I got a police department. And then I got to work on Phoenix Fire Department, and then I got sucked in to dispatch. And once you get bit by that bug, it's pretty awesome. And I was super excited to come in and bring technology into the world of 911 centers. And some of you know me from back in the day working at Positron for way too many years. And about 10 years ago, I busted out of that software world and started working with people in dispatch. If you came into the class yesterday, that I was mentioning the first time I ever got hit by a dispatcher was in 1998. And I realized there were some tensions and some stress going on. And then also breaking up a big fight between 2 ladies in a class, and realizing, you know, one was dating the other one, soon to be ex, and they all worked together. And I realized that sometimes your stress is all this stuff coming into the work. And sometimes it's you, and just figuring out how to do it. And so back in the day, it was right around 2005, 2006, I walked one of those NINA trade show floors, and I've been going to NINA and APCO so many years. I think the only year I missed, I was too pregnant to fly. And yeah, that was, well, my son's 15. That was the only year I missed an APCO class or a conference. And I walked the floor back then, and I couldn't find too many booths on the floor that helped the people. There was a whole lot of tools and a whole lot of software and a whole lot of equipment and comfy chairs and really nice people in suits. And I was one of them. And I couldn't find people to help the people. So lots of tools, but who's going to help people not be a tool using the tools? Because I also met some really grumpy people, and I thought, oh my goodness, how can we work with the most important part, which is the human sitting there using the software, and then care for them, show good care for folks that are trying to get through the day, and then get in the car and turn it on and drive and do it again. And sometimes working for some pretty intimidating people, and sometimes working for people that maybe were disrespectful. You know, there's agencies I've visited that have civilians working for law enforcement. One agency demotes people from out in the field in the law enforcement cars and puts them in charge of dispatch for 2 years as a punitive measure. So can you imagine the dispatchers working under someone that's being punished? And what kind of work environment and culture does that happen to for people? You know, what does it develop for culture? And also, I've worked for some pretty grumpy people myself. You know, some of the industry back in the day, and I'm kind of an old dog, is male dominated, or you know, in a pecking order of military style. And so there's also some disrespect. And in the dispatcher role, it was also started as an administrator assistant space. And so in the pecking order, I had one lady say to me, it feels like yesterday, but it was most likely February, since that's the last time I traveled. She said, "We're lower than dirt, Mo. We're like lower than the dirt, and that's the way the sheriff treats us." And well, that just breaks my heart. First of all, the sheriff and I need to have a little chat. And second, if that's how you feel, that's not how you're going to be. And then you're going to start treating people the way that you're being treated. And that's not necessarily a good domino effect. The other thing is, if you are being treated that way, how can you thrive in that environment instead of survive and hang on with your fingernails? So today, we can talk all day long about vendors and software and stuff, but none of that's really going to be useful if you can't take good care of yourself, so that you have the fortitude and the patience and respect to withhold or to stave off some of that treatment, but also to give yourself the coping skills and the energy and fill up your tanks with which to do good stress management and health and wellness. And if you walk a trade show floor today, good luck, there's none of them around. I think 12 of them got canceled in just, you know, a couple of months, and then it was like a domino effect. But when you do get to walk a trade show floor again, you will notice something about all the kinds of booths and all kinds of people paying attention to caring for yourself and stress management and coping skills, because some people have figured out that if you take care of the individual, you can literally change the world one person at a time, taking care of yourself. So today we're going to take an 8-hour day and pack it into 1 hour. And for those of you that have seen me talk, you know I can go for 8 hours, but not today. Today we're going to hit some of the highlights, just the peaks. I like to say just the peaks because I'm in the Rocky Mountains and we have peaks. I might even show you one at the end of the class because we conquered a 14er, and I got a funny story for you at the end. Okay, so let's keep going. I'm screen sharing. You can see my water. So one of our themes today is please don't put poison in the watering hole. You can see a picture of, hey, that was before my time, although that was 911 in 1968. And now we have 911 today. And 911 today has turned into a little bit more information, a little bit more picture access, a little bit more integrated with first response, a little bit more not just answering the phone and not just a dispatcher. And by the way, if I went around the room and you guys all introduced yourselves, one of you would say, I'm just a dispatcher. And then I'd be like, come on, man. And then I'd barge into your world, read your name tag and say, you're so much more than that. And it's more now that we are teams and involved. And you know, there's agencies you can click on a camera and see what's happening. And some of you will say, I didn't sign on to see things. And how are we going to cope when people start sending us pictures and sharing more information? The other thing is, we got lots of age groups coming in, cultural diversities, and a whole complexity of personalities and different ways that we were raised. There's traditionals. You know, this morning, I found myself thinking, holy cow, I have a choice now this morning to jump on the elliptical and do 15 minutes to get charged up, or help my brother in Seattle figure out Zoom because he has to go to court because his wife just filed for divorce papers. Now, some people would say, he should have planned ahead and shouldn't be doing this at the last minute, and you come first and you should get your workout in so that you sit all day and you get a little blood pumping. However, I'm a traditional. So traditionals were raised in this generation to sacrifice yourself and your minutes and say yes to the boss and yes to the schedule and yes to the kids and yes to remote learning and groceries and dinner and planning and time management. And I am quite okay with just dropping myself to the bottom of the list and doing something I feel like should be done, and also helping out others. Now, if you take somebody coming in, maybe even half my age, well, first of all, don't slap them because their skin looks way better. But they might have a different prioritization. They might do the work-life balance before they do the sacrifice. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. What that does is make it different communications and motivating those different generations and yourself is a bit of a discipline. You can't resent somebody who pops up and leaves on time because their shift is over, and give them the stink eye when they're walking out of the room. Oh, I wish I could leave early. And then you look at them and they feel it, that, I'm leaving. And by the way, sometimes they calculate, you want me to come in 15 minutes early? Well, okay. Well, 15 minutes early, 5 days a week is an hour and 15 minutes. 4 weeks out of a month, that's 5 hours. Maybe if it's $20 an hour, that's $100. And are you going to give me an extra $100? I'll start coming in early. Those are my minutes. And then we say, well, I was raised to come in early. Today I came in early. I got everything all set up. And that's a normal for me and how we get through some of those things. Not always are the communications the same. So this individual purpose and figuring out what makes you tick and where you're going, pretty important. And then how you communicate to the folks around you. Tone of voice, a huge percentage of how you make a message go across. Words, 6%. The words that you say is only 6% of your message. Body language, if you are, charging and forward and pointing, well, that also adds to the tone of the messaging. And when you look here on the screen, 67% of new hires leaving have worked 3 years or less. And how do we participate in working in these multiple generations? And how do we take care of ourselves when we're trying to learn right and wrong and time management and balance? So there's a couple things. One, we're going to leave today pretty darn aware of a few things that we could do tomorrow. Rudy, if you're going to spend all day staring at your computer and figuring out this virtual conference, which is going to be pretty exciting and also full of music, because I got a little jiggy going on since I came in early and listened to it. You're going to leave pretty aware of some things you can do tomorrow morning, because otherwise, why are we sitting here spending time together if we can't take something and do with it? So hopefully you grabbed a piece of paper. We're going to start note to self, totally aware of our participation in the work environments and making that fostering bonds of trust or not. And noticing poor behavior is pretty easy. You can notice stink eye, and you can notice attitude, and you can notice things going on that where people maybe aren't being treated very well, or where you're not treating yourself very well. The not tolerating part, that's the hard part. Now, you can't just notice some things and be rude about it. You know, one of the #1 morale destroyers is gossip. Okay, so if you think you want to get towards a decent workplace, and if your workplace was better, then your life would be better, I can tell you that it doesn't matter how fantastic management is or how much raise you get in promotion and everything lines up for you on a silver plate. You will destroy a very good work environment with speaking negatively about people that aren't present. It's not okay. It never has been okay. It gets people in trouble, and it's a career-ending maneuver if you get caught. And some folks actually consider it part of venting or part of solving or getting it off their chest. However, saying things negatively about people that aren't present is not okay. It doesn't problem solve, and it adds poison into that nice, clean watering hole that you would like to have. You know, you wouldn't walk over to the coffee pot and just squirt a bunch of mustard in it and ruin everybody's morning, but we do that sometimes with our mouth. Now, the top 3 morale destroyers, if you go out on the floor and survey, which we've been doing for 10 years, inconsistency between supervisors, inconsistency in messaging that goes out on the floor. And how can we manage some of those talking points, like we talked about yesterday, in getting the rules and the policies to go out well. You know, I rolled out a dress code to an agency on the West Coast recently. And I walked into the room and I said, hey, you guys got trained on your dress code? And everybody nodded. I had 7 supervisors. Okay, look at what I'm wearing and what I get sent home. 3 of the 4 would have sent me home. And therein lies 7 supervisors, with 3 of them thinking about the outfit I was wearing differently than the other 4. And imagine if I was a new hire working for that group, which one would I be doing it correctly under? And we haven't even gotten to sitting down and using our dispatch position. We're already getting sent home under this supervisor instead of that one by what we decided was a caller or not a caller. And those things can cause a ripple effect. And what we want to do is make the ripple effect small, like a pebble in the water, instead of a boulder that drowns people. The other thing is, when the morale isn't that fantastic and you're not feeling good about coming in, and you're not feeling treated well, or you're not dealing with some of your stresses, you come in and whoom, and then we hang. I sometimes see people just hanging at their position, and they're just, oh, and you wonder, oh, if management did more for me, then I'd be better and I'd get more rest. And then sometimes when we listen to recordings, yeah, our QA team listens to recordings and turns around scorecards and evaluations and helps people. You can hear people sleeping, and then, that's not so good. So you guys have furniture that moves up and down. Now, normally I would be there and people would raise their hands and I'd be like, great. So that means you can stand up. And you can sit down, and you can stand up, and you can move up and down at your position. That's really fantastic, by the way, if you're feeling, oh. Also, if you're sitting forward and you're hunched over, imagine what that's doing to your diaphragm. And you can't breathe very well. You can't get a nice, big, deep breath. You're not sitting back. You don't have your shoulders back. You're not pulling good air into your lungs. You know, it's one of the first steps into self-imposed depression is not breathing well, and hunched over and slumped over and on that mouse. And so sometimes when we're all sitting together in a room, and you guys know that I do this, I get you all going, sitting back and breathing through your nose, nice and slow, not too fast. You hyperventilate, pass out. Momo said to breathe. I'm like, well, I didn't mean fast and furious. Nice and slow for 10 seconds. And especially for males, where the blood vessels back here are a little smaller and tighter, you need that oxygen to come up the back of your neck into your brain and feed your brain so you're firing on all cylinders. Because adrenaline, how many times do you think adrenaline goes up and down in a day? Situational stress causes adrenaline. You take a call, something's going on, adrenaline up. Sucks oxygen out of your brain, adrenaline down. So imagine that's going up and down. One of the simplest things you can do is just 10 seconds. And nice and slow, and all of a sudden you're clearing. You see someone stressed out and freaking out, they just breathe. And all of a sudden you're putting oxygen in your brain in the parts of it that are starved. There's so many tiny little things. You can stand up if you're feeling sluggish. You can do more water than more caffeine, which also dehydrates you. And when you think through how easily it can happen, I recently did a conference, and I was in charge of running part of this conference. And I worked probably, I don't know, a couple days in a row, almost 18 hours straight. The second day, I got so dehydrated, I thought I was having a stroke. And I had to think about the water and the intake and what have I been drinking, and oh, maybe I switched from coffee to wine. It's hard to tell. And you think through all the things that dehydrate you, and then you sit. Situational stress, where the adrenaline comes up and down in your body and gives your brain a beating, plus sitting. How many of you sit more than 8 hours a day, more than 2 hours a day? Extended sedentary, now I can't even say that word. Extended sitting and situational stress, double whammy. It causes migraines, weight gain, premature aging, anxiety, irritability, tensions, insomnia. You all get very good sleep, I'm sure. I can see you not nodding. And it's related to 32 chronic diseases, including high blood pressure. So that situational stress and that sitting, that's just you right there, hanging out at your chair, and you're a supervisor, you get up and walk, and maybe you get up and walk, but do your people get up and move? And can we encourage that? There's ways to encourage it. And by the way, in the word encouragement is courage. It does take some courage to bust through some of the awkward things. Now, in today's worlds, we have culminated some of our behaviors into picking on each other. You get a lot of stuff coming in on 911, and you take a lot of situational stress. You're not treated very well in some agencies. And in some agencies, you're treated very well, but you're not treated well at home. And in some areas, you have tensions and anger and strife. Both of my brothers divorced with the stress of their jobs coming in at home. And then we start picking on each other. And in today's world, it's labels. And if you guys were all in the room with me and I could hear you and we could interact, I would ask you, at what grade do they start teaching anti-bullying classes? Kindergarten. Kindergarten, you are not allowed to push, shove, mean looks, text about each other. You're not allowed to pass mean notes. And how you treat people is taught starting in kindergarten. Now, by the way, it started in kindergarten when my son was in kindergarten. And when you think about him being in high school today, we are now working in the job place with people trained on how to treat people. You also have dispatchers coming out of college. I have 3 friends teaching at the university on how to be a professional dispatcher and telecommunicator. Beautiful environments with equipment and instructors and whiteboards. And then they are learning professional dispatchers and can graduate with that. Well, some of us, high school diploma, rolled right into answering the phone and moved into dispatch. And we grew up in the industry, and now folks are gonna come out of college and land at your center, and what are they gonna get? First of all, they know you're not supposed to tease each other and be intimidating. And they're gonna be like, hey, this isn't okay. I am sitting in coaching now virtually, because we do coaching in our QA programs and in our training programs. And online we do how to take good care of each other when you are an intimidator or you are being intimidated. And I have two lovely ladies who cannot have lunch in the same room because one gave the other a mean look. Now, virtually, I cannot slap them. So we must work through what are we going to say and how are we going to ask and what are we going to be and how do we get past that. I also have two internal investigations going on at two different agencies on what people are willing to text about each other across the room. And those phones got pulled and the texts got printed out. And now we are working on cyber text harassment. These are things that we are teaching adults on how to be. And of course, when we're in a class and everybody's having fun and you're figuring some of this out, I say, please don't pinch, and you lean right over and pinch somebody. And what happens is the familiarity of working together for so many years and the familiarity of coming together and being friends. We're like family, Mo. If I had a nickel for every time I heard that. Yes, I know it, because it takes personal, emotional connection and trust to deal with some of the things that you deal with. And for some strange reason, it does culminate into walking to the break room and stealing someone's yogurt, arguing about lights up, lights down, heat up, heat down. That's my chair. It's been my chair for 15 years. You need to move. That's my shift. I've always had that shift. You can't have my shift. You can't have Christmas off until someone here drops dead. All of these are real life comments that happen in agencies where we're not rising above and developing each other professionally to create a professional environment where we feel like we're taking good care of each other through the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's what we signed on for. And that's also what we're getting paid to do, is to take care of ourselves when we show up so that we can be 100% present. So being aware of 100% present. Now, one of the handouts that Maureen Culbertson has is a character-based communications sheet. It is all the character-based words, 49 character traits that are used in anti-bullying training in education, starting in kindergarten, on how to speak to people if you want them to be punctual. Which, by the way, in the definition of punctuality, it does not say don't be late. It says respecting and showing esteem for others and doing the right thing at the right time. It's a really great way to talk to somebody about what's going on in their world so that they can show esteem for others and how they arrive and respect someone that's trying to get home. So when we talk about don't be late, there's other ways that we can talk about it. Now, it is an inward motivation, by the way, to do what's right. So if you're a jerk, this is going to be difficult and it's going to take some work. Also, if you don't know the words, you can have a cheat sheet. I had somebody come up and say, okay, I have this young man and he wants to leave early because he has a date, but we have a hurricane warning. What am I supposed to say? And I'm like, well, what did you say first? Let's start with what you said. Well, I said, hell no, get your ass back out on the floor and dispatch. I said, well, probably not the greatest answer. 2, he's probably not that motivated. And 3, you probably thought it was a stupid question, but he thought it was an important question because he wanted to go out on his date and he was trying to figure it out. So inward motivation to do what's right. She's asking for help on how to determine her response, regardless of the circumstances and regardless of how she personally felt with it. And she might have said a lot of other stuff and maybe some swear words with her face. Remember, body language, tone of voice. So whatever's built into their life is sometimes going to garner how they respond. And you can teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach a young dog new tricks. And all of this situational stress and this sitting is going to affect you mental, social, physical. Mental, social, and physical well-being will be impacted. Your health and wellness will be impacted by the job that you decided to take on. And an awesome job with not enough recognition and not enough tools and not enough people, and do more with less is your motto. And then just when you get it all figured out and you go home, someone calls in sick and exhausted. And then you see on Facebook that they really just had a birthday party to go to, and the resentment chip starts, and then we grow, starts all over again the next day. So we just need to think through how can we get past some of the normal of the stress and strife so that you can take care. Okay, so 48% juggling shift life with personal life. We mentioned that yesterday. I'm just going to mention that 6% of your stress comes from job security. And some of you are like, well, geez, I'm going to just fire me. Could we schedule that for next Tuesday? You're not necessarily too worried about getting exited. And the majority of that stress is coming from the people and the juggling and the workload, right? And that's very different, by the way, than other industries where job security is like a big deal and they're worried about layoffs. And so when you think through where you need to point your energy, self first. Remember today, this is save yourself. This way you can help people around you, but you can't help people if you're not a very good example. Okay, so sometimes inspiration is often lacking. No kidding. Look at the industry we're working in. It's difficult, right? There's a whole lot of community conflict and there's a pecking order and sometimes we're not respected. You guys have vision statements. By the way, when I come in and give you a test on your vision statement, usually the new hires who had to memorize it to come on board know it. And people that have been there for 10 years have forgotten some of the most important words in their own agency vision statement. And then I also get someone that says, we don't even have one. Well, the police department has one, but dispatch doesn't. Well, then make one. Pull together a working group and make one. And then be aware of what's happening in your community and just be cautious in how you participate in community awareness and contributing to the reputation of your agency and yourself and where you work. There's a whole lot of stuff going on and you need to be aware of how you're managing your stress around it, right? It can be stressful to wear your uniform into a grocery store. And how do you want to manage some of that? That's why some of the rules change about where you're allowed to wear your uniforms. And then we think about welcoming and scheduling feedback, not very commonly done with supervisors and their teams or management and their teams. This is very different, by the way, than a performance evaluation. And then flexibility. Flexibility is one of the #1 things people ask for at that younger generation when they come into a working environment. We can talk more about that tomorrow when we talk about different generations in the workplace. But flexibility instead of rigidity, and I got that word right. I'm so good. I had coffee and a little dance this morning, so I'm doing good. But rigidity is not fantastic when you're trying to motivate and get people going. And where can we find flexibility? And those are difficult things to come after or to get after and solve because there's rules. There's rules in what you do. And then there's professional and personal development. Now, sometimes I have a chief stand up. This lady's here to teach you all how to be professional. And then I look at him and I'm like, actually, I'm here to teach you how to work for people like this. But you know what? Professional development can only happen well if you are also developing person that shows up to be professional. So the two go hand in hand, peanut butter and jelly. And it's difficult to leave your junk over there in the trunk and then walk into work with all that stuff behind you. It takes discipline, but it also takes some practice. Practice improving social abilities, knowledge, learning and growing. We spend a lot of time on this slide when we're doing a workshop in areas that you have potential and how you can build your strengths. And whether it's family or college or social abilities or social media policy and things that get you worked up and things that get you excited to do more. And so when we think about, okay, grab your paper. We think about where are you? And today you may be a little burnt out. Maybe you're just starting your career. Maybe you just are doing this for a job. And why did you sign on to do this? Why are you getting paid to get in your car, turn it on, drive, and take a good beating and a bunch of calls, and sometimes the good, the bad, and the ugly call, and so does frequent flyers call, and children that you know are going through tough times. And why do you do that? When we work through this in our workshop, I find it very rare that you write down to steal someone's yogurt, to argue over the lights. When you think about it and we pause and give you a minute to think about why you do this amazing thing you do, you write down things like to make a difference, to participate in law enforcement, to become law enforcement, to save lives, to grow your career path, to run the center someday, to be in public safety because your parents were in public safety. You write down things that seem to matter. And that sometimes gets forgotten on the back burner when you open the fridge and take someone's pizza. So we have to tap into that and pull that forward in order to create personal development, in order to create professionalism, in order to have the strength to stave off gossip. This means that tomorrow you could walk in, if you're the gossiper, and decide to zip the lip, or you could walk in and notice. And if you're a brand new hire and you're looking at two supervisors and they're gossiping, what would Mo say? You cannot walk in and say, shut up, bitch. You can't do that. That's just adding rudeness to bad behavior. But you can say, we don't do this anymore. It's not good for us. You can smile. You can say it nicely. You can build strength, and then you can just say it in your head because you're too scared to talk to that supervisor and say that because you'd be written up. But you could practice. We don't do this anymore. It's not good for us. You can practice it with your buddies and the person sitting next to you. You can also say, how can I help you? You see someone stressed out and complaining? That's a great sentence. How can I help you? I don't need no help. Are you sure? Happy to help. Even if you don't like the person, the fact that you have that reach out fosters trust, and it gives you purpose, and you set an example. And also, if you set the example of you don't really tolerate that around you so that you can hear your calls and be 100% present, and you're a supervisor that says, hey, come on, let's 100% present. How can I help you be that? You start moving that circle of negativity away from you, 100% focused. 2 weeks ago, I listened to a QA call and a whole lot of laughing and F-bombs being dropped in the backgrounds while a 2-year-old couldn't breathe. And when we pulled that recording and listened to what was going on in the background, it's no wonder that dispatcher felt distracted and couldn't hear everything going on. And who was allowing that laughing and F-bombs to go on in the background loud enough that it could be on a recording while a 2-year-old was not breathing and the mom was trying to hear the instructions. That's how quickly we can let that environment come in, or we can notice it and push it right back out. And does that dispatcher have the permission and the strength and the voice to say, hey, I can't hear. And we don't do this anymore here. If you need to talk and laugh, we have other places for that, off the recordings, off the floor. And that's hard because what if you're being snippy, and it's seen as disrespectful? Do we have the voice and the strength? Well, the answer is no, if we're not doing something to kind of help us be useful, truthful, and kind in the way we communicate. And then what words can we use? So go grab that cheat sheet that I sent to Maureen, because that gives you the words. You can also sit down in a working group and use a handout like this, which I also sent to Maureen, that helps you identify some of the goals long term. I want to pay off my credit card. Short term, I'm going to buy 3 less Starbucks a week, and that's going to give me $15 more a week. That's going to give me $60 more a month that I'm going to put towards that credit card over 12 months. Well, I need a calculator for that. So I have one behind me, but we're not going to spend time on the math today. If we were doing a workshop, we would work through, I want to go to college and finish my degree. If you're parents and you have a 4-year-old, well, in 14 years, they're going to be going to college. How much is that going to cost? Divided by 14 years, how much can we put away? $50 a month towards that. You can build learning and growing goals. And we work through this when we're doing workshops and help you figure some of these things out. And on the right-hand side, you want to be pursuing something that helps you put one foot in front of the other. By the way, for women, we talked about men breathing and sitting up. And well, for women, get up and walk. and you're going to have a stressful day, park farther away from work, because one foot in front of the other, but you can process. And get up and walk around the building, get up and walk up and down the stairs, you can process. It's so good. I don't know what to do. Well, just walk down the sidewalk and back, right? I know a fellow that we're coaching right now, his goal was to just be able to go up 2 stairs and go out on the floor and talk to his group of people. But he had a cane, he couldn't walk, he'd gained some weight. And 1 year later, no cane, and he can walk all the way down the sidewalk and all the way back. And his goal is to make it all the way around the building. And he goes halfway and then he comes back halfway. And then I said, why don't you go all the way around? Because the other part of the half is uphill. It's too hard for him right now. So baby steps into this, short-term goals to long-term goals. And then how can you grow a team with training and professionalism together so you all come together with a good book club? Well, 50 Shades of Grey and the sheriff kicked that book club right out. So pick a different book and get after it in a way that you're not grousing about the book club getting canceled, but finding a book that'll help you with professionalism. So there's ways for you to work on this together where you're putting one foot in front of the other. What does this do? It pulls you out of the negativity and the energy suck of gossip and complacency. You start contributing to your workplace. So the idea of an exercise like this is to notice morale destroyers, not the people, and point at them. You should not put out the finger. It is to grow mentors and support teams. This is a little different, by the way, than peer support teams. So when we're at an agency and we're growing peer support teams, it's a little different than mentoring and menteeing. And by the way, mentors don't deal with boyfriends and budgets, right? We deal with growth and learning and career and professionalism. Hobbies, which we mentioned yesterday, help you with stress management, training, scheduling, and welcoming feedback, right? Not bitching sessions. And then shift relief strategies. How can you help each other when you're short-staffed? You know, 26 people should be on staff and you have 15. How can you help each other with good food, good exercise, good moving? Personal boundaries, right? We should not be bringing our divorce out onto the floor and then we're dispatching the very person we're divorcing and it's going to be miserable for 30 days or 3 months. We need to have boundaries around some of that so that we're 100% present and focused. And so are our people who are trying so hard not to dispatch to the wrong address, using the right codes. They just changed all the function buttons on our CAD system and off we go. I mean, when you look at the CAD systems that are rolling out today, it's no longer everything on cards and printing. By the way, I remember that. I'm old enough to remember the cards and the stamping. It's a whole different ballgame. We have to have the boundaries in a place that we can set that aside and figure it out. Okay, so take a look at this. I popped it up again. Maureen has a copy of it. Imagine that you pick something big, hairy, and scary. What's it gonna look like? Let's pick something and write it down. You want to lose 10 pounds by Christmas? So do I. I have this really cool pair of pants. I need to wear them at Christmas. So think about something like that. What about professionalism? Do you want the same job next year and you want to be a subject matter expert on the new CAT coming in? Are you rolling out EZNet and text to 911 and very cool things? Very expensive, by the way, so we should pay attention to it and treat it well, because your agencies are spending a ton of money on trying to find location and people in the way that they're communicating today. Text, there's over 39 million deaf people in the United States. We're doing these things for good reason. They also spend money, by the way, on your furniture moving up and down, not so management can come in and stand next to you, but so that you can stand and move. So some of these investments are for the greater good. So what professional goal would we set to participate in that? Maybe be an ENP. How about I pop up a list to help you? Same role next year: promotion, learning, participating, certifications, emergency number professional, workplace quality groups, did you know binders. Sometimes you guys complain a little bit about sharing information from shift to shift. People get up and go and the shift exchange is chaos and you don't know what happened on the shift before and we don't share properly, people can make logs and binders in their CAD, in their paper, in their comm center, and they can share, did you know this happened? And we want you to know. We're looking for a white van in case you guys hear that. You can have little morning huddles that are 5-minute with, okay, today we're going to breathe. Today we're going to move. Today we're going to do 100 air squats. Takes 17 minutes, by the way, to do that, but not if you've never done any. Just start out with 5. I'm not recommending you hurt your hip. By the way, I had to sleep on this side because yesterday I decided to do push-ups, which I haven't done in a while, and now this side doesn't work so good. It comes with my age, I'm pretty sure, or the fact that I tried to do too many. Not quite sure on that. Subject matter expert. You could be a SME on policy writing. Oh, that'd be awesome. People need policy writing. You know what I'm saying? Healthy lifestyle, debt, relationships, buy a house, pay off your college loans. There's all kinds of cool things you can do in this exercise. And then you start working together. You're not going to set a goal that says, I decided to smoke. I took up smoking, and today I'm going to get towards 1 pack, and next week it'll be 2. It's something that's hairy and scary that gets you up, and it's your lifeline, and off you go, and it helps you get through the tough times, and it helps you make good choices, which, by the way, when you make poor choices like 14 hours of Netflix, that's not so great for your self-esteem, and that doesn't really help you heal and get going. It does help you escape, and escaping is sometimes, oh, there's my alarm. Okay, so we're going to get to questions here in just a minute. Let me start that so I can see. All right, good. I did good on my time today. I'm going to leave you with a story. Look at this lovely lady. All right, well, sometimes we get through some things that are pretty difficult. When I was 37, I went to school. For the first time, I went to college, and in 4 years, I studied organizational culture. I wanted to figure out how to help dispatch centers. I was 37. Now, if someone would have told me I was going to also have 2 babies and I was running 911 software training and sales teams at Positron back in the day, if someone would have told me all the things I was going to go through in those 4 years, I might not have done it. So it's good that we don't have the crystal ball and tell the future. So at 37, I went to college, and I also had 2 babies and 2 miscarriages. I also had 2 brand new bosses because our company and our team back in the day went through 2 acquisitions back to back. That was really painful. I gained a lot of weight. I think I came out of that almost 200 and some odd pounds, and hung over more often than not. And I ended up about 10 years ago, restructured out of all of that, wondering what I'm going to do, and unemployed. So that's how I got this going, is I decided to do something a little different. I also picked a 14er weirdly at the same time. I thought it was like a 5K, but in Colorado, 14er is a huge mountain and you go up and back down in August, and you have to come back down before the snow comes and kills you dead. So you have to start at like 5 in the morning. Well, I'd never hiked. I didn't even know what a camelback was. And apparently you have to put electrolytes in it, not margaritas, and get to the top of that. Now, I presented it at a conference and 12 people signed up. And I was like, dang, I thought I was more motivational than that. But then a lovely lady wrote to me, can I hike with you? I said, of course. And she said, well, my doctor said I would never hike again because I have cancer. This will be my last hike. Now, I still have, from 10 years ago, pink hat. And I'll give you one of these pink hats. So Karen, put everybody's name in here. If someone challenges themselves today with a big ass goal, hairy and scary like a 14er, this hat is from this hike. And I'm going to need to write me and tell me what your big ass goal is. And then we're going to get after it together. If you look at this picture, she's wearing this hat. And it's signed by everybody that made it to the top with this lady, to the top of this mountain. And we might have flipped off the doctor. I kind of do stuff like that every now and then, being a troublemaker. She didn't die, by the way. She's still alive 10 years later, and she runs 4 911 centers. And we run this hike every year in Colorado. It's called Elevate Yourself Colorado. We did not run it this year because of COVID and the fires. And I think about how in all the years, by the way, I lost 45 pounds training for this hike. In all the years of running this hike for free, for people to just get up and get out of their chairs, the email and the lives that people get together. One lady lost 22 pounds and she wrote me a note and she found me on the mountain and she said, I have 100 left to go, but I'm going to keep after it. People fly in sometimes and hike together. We've hiked in honor of the Black Forest fire and 2 dispatchers that lost their houses dispatching while the fire was going on. And we hiked Storm King Mountain, where we went to every cross where wild firefighters had died in being trapped in the fire. We've brought over 420 people up to the mountain and hiked to 1,000 feet to the top, halfway there and back down again, just to get somebody moving. And this has spurred several other states doing 5Ks and physical initiatives. Now, I'm not saying get up and do a 14er tomorrow. The altitude sickness alone, if you don't train, can make it pretty painful. But how awesome to pull people together and do something to get going forward. And then also because you can. And by the way, we started training for this in February to make it happen in August and pulling things together. So it's not done easily. That's why not everybody does it. But it does take that long-term thinking to pull you out of it. And out of what? Out of the stress that you're dealing with every day. And so you want to just think through some things where you can create change, where you can participate in your work environment. We often work through supervisors using their experience wisely and tying yourself to, I'm going to leave this up here in case you guys have questions, tying yourself to where you can create change and where you can do something in a leadership by example, management supervisor way, where you start working on something and that makes it able for you to notice where someone else can also work on something, even if it's walking or pulling people together for a book club or a 5K or a 14er, although I don't think you have any in Tennessee. So, but you might have a couple of hills and some steps. So think through that. Now, I gave us, I think about 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes for questions. So I'm gonna leave this up in case you wanna email. And if someone wants to go into the chat and tell me if there's any questions or ideas or things, job aids, you can ask for a job aid on ENP. We always providing information where you can get resources, and a lot of this is free. So you don't have to be overspending in order to get some of this going. So Karen, is there any questions or anything that you want me to pay attention to?
I was going to tell Maureen if she could go back, or maybe you go back to the slide before the contact. We've had somebody, Joyce has asked, could she see the, yeah, that one right there.
Yes.
And then,
Sure can.
hey, I love the whole thing. And then to let you know, we have the Appalachian Trail that runs through the east part of Tennessee in the Great Smoky Mountains. You know, that's on my bucket list to do one day.
Yes.
And probably get too old to be able to do it, but yeah. It's actually,
Karen, why do they call it a bucket list? Is you got to get it done before you kick the bucket? I mean, why is
that's it.
You know what I'd like to call it? A get her done list.
Get her done list. That sounds better.
Get her done. You're not going to kick the bucket anytime soon. And if you do, you'll wish you would have got her done.
Yeah, that's right. Let's
pick one. You want to do the Appalachian Trail? I've read about that trail. It's dangerous. You got to do a little bit of hiking. But what if you did 1,000 feet on the trail and had a picnic? Or what if you got to the trail and scoped it out and read a good book?
That's right.
Crawl, walk, run, right? But if you do 5 miles on the Appalachian Trail, maybe that's the run part. And the crawl part is to go scope it out, take a good picture of it. Okay, so look behind me. See that picture right behind me right there?
Yeah.
That's a picture of Seattle. I look at that picture every day because I don't live there, but I would like to. And when you think about that, you go, Karen, take a picture of the entrance to the trail where you would park and go, put that in front of your face.
Yeah.
And then you, yeah, okay, how far are you going to walk? 1,000 feet? Well, go practice. Can you walk 1,000 feet without, well, then start with 250. Park farther away at the grocery store. You know, there's a little bit of, and then you're going to be able to take someone with you. Do you know when that lady and I went hiking up that mountain, 82 people signed up to get after supporting her. When I used her story about hiking that mountain because she had cancer, 82 people signed up to get after supporting her. You guys will support each other in a New York second, but do it for yourself, not so easy. And even though 82 people signed up, we only got 67 to the mountain that day. But I'll tell you what, some came to take pictures, provide water, shuttle people up from the parking lot to the trailhead. Everyone participated when they showed up that day in the way that they could. Yep. Not everyone made it to the top, and 4 of us stayed when someone got sick and helped that person back down. And every year we do that.
You know, it's called trail magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You guys
but helping each other is the key. And like you said, yep. you can't, how you feel and how you present yourself, if you're down and out, that's going to infiltrate your center. And so you've got to be uplifting. Yeah.
Yep. No poison in the watering hole.
No poison, no mustard in that coffee.
No wallowing zone. We're not going to wallow in the muck.
Hey, do you want to give the cap away? We actually did a random drawing if you want to give that away.
Hey. All right.
All right.
Sign it.
All right. We've got Kelly Long from Robertson County. You are the winner of the cap. The only thing that Mo asked of you is that you put that cap on and that you make someone proud by go out there.
That's right.
And then we also have another gift card to give, and it's Christy Fulcher from Weakley County. Christy Fulcher from Weakley County.
Excellent. So Karen, make sure you send the other Maureen in my life the address so that this goes out the door.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Hey, we greatly appreciate you and you know, very much.
I will see you all again tomorrow.
Yes, we will.
Get to talk about multiple age groups in the workplace, the Incredibles.
Yes, looking forward to it. Well,
all right, good stuff.
I'm gonna
have a good conference.
Yeah, I tell you what, our Maureen and the whole TINA board has done extremely well. And well, I think Middle Tennessee and my region here is very proud of everyone, and I know the whole state of Tennessee is. So thank you once again.
You guys are doing really well. Yeah, talk to you again tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.
Have a good conference, everybody.